Good evening. I'd like to call the Winterville Town Council meeting to order. Today is Monday, May the 13th, 2024. The time is 6 o'clock. Our invocation tonight will be coming from our Councilwoman, Dr. Brandon Harrell, and after the invocation, we will stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you all would bow your heads. Most gracious God, thank you for this opportunity to serve. Thank you for our community and those who live in our community that want to be unified. Thank you for a mind just to be a community that works together. In all things, we give your name praise. Amen.
Amen.
If we could all stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone that's here in person tonight and the ones that are watching us live stream. Before we get into this business, I'd just like to take a reflection for the Lofton family that lost a loved one here in this community. And we want them to know that our deepest sympathy with them from this town council. So if you take a second and bow your head and a silent prayer, please. Thank you. Again, my name is Ricky Hines. I'm your mayor. Next up, we will have roll call by our town manager, Ms. Terry Parker.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. If the council would express the fact that you are here and in attendance by using your remote, that will be excellent. Everybody present and accounted for, Mayor.
Thank you. Next up is approval of the agenda. Is there any correction before we get a motion on this, Matt?
No, sir.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Johnny Moore, second by Councilwoman Dr. Brandon Harrell. Any discussion? If none, all vote by hitting your clicker, please. Motion carry. Thank you. We have proclamations, and we're not going to read the proclamations off tonight. We're not going to read each one of the proclamations, but we're going to go down what the proclamations are. Correct?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
We want to recognize mothers. We are a day behind with yesterday being Mothers, but recognize everything that our mothers meant to us and did for us. Secondly, we've got Memorial Day upcoming and what it stands for our country. So we recognize Memorial Day. And then we have three items for 3 weeks to recognize for here of staff that we have here in our town. And the first one is Emergency Medical Services Week, and then Police Week is upcoming, and also Public Works Week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I would say, and I apologize for not having keyed in on this as a recognition, but mental health, Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
And I've made a note that next year we'll have a proclamation recognizing that.
Thank
And that is, Mayor Pro Tem Harrell, you might want to say a few words why we're all adorned tonight.
That's what I was going to tell her.
Okay.
Say.
Thank you so much. Town Clerk Harvey. Just want to say thank you to the staff, to the council, to Attorney King for wearing your green in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. It makes my heart smile, and also just want to make sure that the community knows that mental health is health. You know, we can't function without our minds being in a place that we can have a certain level of functioning. So one of the things that I always say to people, please don't judge what you don't understand. And if there's someone that you know, a loved one, or just anyone that you know that may need some type of mental health treatment, don't hesitate to try to get those resources and reach out. And if anyone has any questions or concerns about that, you may email me, and I won't hesitate to help you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Stephen, correct? It's public hearing? Evan, I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's usually Stephen.
Usually Stephen.
That's okay, I've been called worse.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the crowd, grandmothers, and et cetera. Title XV of the Winterville Town Code of Ordinances, we are proposing some modifications, and I'll run down through some of the chapters number and some brief notes on each one. I did send an email out on Friday with some of that information, so some of,
There, you closer. Thank you.
man, I don't usually have to eat the mic.
I know.
So a lot of this is just going to be some of that same information. Anyway, so first one is Chapter 140, Building Regulations. That's basically the building department, its inspections, et cetera. Change that from 150 to 140, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Really, the changes in there was just changing references statutorily from 160A to 160D. The reason that we changed the chapter number for this one, others, and added chapter numbers was the way that the ordinances are right now, or chapters are right now in Title 15. There wasn't space to add the additional ordinances and keep them in numerical order, so we created new chapters as those were vacant. Anyway, Chapter 141 is Minimum Housing Code, which is an existing ordinance, or an existing chapter as well. No significant substantive changes to that as operation or anything. Most of it is just 160A to 160D references. The only real, I guess I would call, significant changes within that were who the public officer is, i.e. The code enforcement officer. Before it was the zoning enforcement officer, so just clarifying that. Dilapidated and deteriorated, those definitions previously were 65%, modifying those to 50%. That also brings it more in line with statutory requirements, because there are 50% requirements depending on which step of the process that you're in, so that just clarifies it to be the same across the board. We did remove a couple sections from 141 and created their own chapters, and I'll touch on those as I get into them. So Chapter 142, Non-Residential Building or Structure Code, was one that was previously in the currently existing Chapter 151, Minimum Housing. We separated that out because that is not actually part of Article 12 of 160D, which is where minimum housing is authorized. It is a separate chapter, or separate section in 160D, so we separated that out. But again, the process is pretty similar to minimum housing. No changes, that is new. But again, pretty similar to minimum housing, then that is non-residential though. 143 is repair, closing, demolition of abandoned structures. That is one that is granted through 160D, Article 12, same as minimum housing. Pretty similar, but it is a separate section within that statute. And then 144, closing or securing, vacating, closing buildings, is a very short chapter, and it basically just says what we're putting up there, for example, when we go and board up doors or windows for structures that have abandoned as part of that process. Anybody have any questions for me?
Are these changes the same changes that the state required with that 160D?
Yep, so, the state, there is some allowance for definitions, minimum standards, things like that. But as far as the process itself, timelines and all that stuff, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions before anybody else have any questions before we open the public hearing?
Evan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnston, I know you sent this out. I did not have time to
That's okay.
read it through thoroughly. If I do have questions, I will bring them up. In particular, 160D.
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, I do not have time to go through it, but I will bring those questions back up to you. My
Anyone else have any questions? If not, I'd like to open the public hearing. If you would like to speak against the changes to this ordinance, please step to the podium now. State your name and your address if you'd like to speak against this. Again, if you would like to speak against it, you can step to the podium now and state your name and address. If none, if you would like to speak for this ordinance, can you please step to the podium and state your name and your address? Again, if you would like to speak for this, you got an opportunity now to step to the podium and state your name and address. With that being said, no one stepped forward. I now close the public hearing and adhere to the pleasure of this board. What would you like to do?
Hey, Mayor, if I may real quick,
I'm
I'm sorry. Two things that I failed to mention. One, I did not receive any comments.
Okay.
I meant to mention that before, and this was, of course, advertised per statutory requirement.
Okay.
And then, as far as the motion goes, town attorney had spoken with me today, I think, and Keen, please let me know if I misspeak, that you wanted that the motion, he asked that the motion be worded to confirm the ordinance amendments for chapter 140, 141, 142, 143, and 144 specifically.
And if I could, Mayor, it's, sometimes we like to have a specific motion for every amendment, but this is also similar. I think it's fine to put it in one motion. I just want to make sure that the minutes reflect that we're amending, again, the 140, 141, 2, 3, and 4.
So would it be feasible to go with the recommendation, what town staff has stated, that the adoption of the ordinance C for 24 ordinance C for 051, would that be sufficient?
I would just like to add to that motion again that we specifically we're amending chapter 140, 141, 142, 143, and 144. You get
Well, Keen, we're actually creating those chapters as opposed to amending.
That's correct. It's an amendment to the ordinance by adding it. So
I got you.
just
Okay.
just calling it an amendment.
Got it.
We added.
I'd like to make a motion that we are, to confirm that we are amending to the ordinance chapters 141, 142, 143, and 144.
And 140. Did you say?
140, okay.
140.
At 140, and I second that.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor made by Councilwoman Dr. Harrell, second by Councilman Johnny Moore, to amend the ordinance chapters 140, 141, 142, 143, and 144. Any discussion before I call for the vote? Kevin? Okay. Anybody on this one? Okay. If you could please vote by hitting your clicker, please. Okay, motion is in, as unanimous, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, if I could just denote that these ordinances will take effect upon adoption, so immediately.
All right. Well, next up is the public comment section, and before we step up, I'm tasked to read this. The public comment period of 30 minutes provide an opportunity for residents to comment on any items included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matters related to the town of Winterville for any items included in the public hearing section of the agenda. Residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites the public comments on the item. No public comments may be made to the council during the meeting except during the public comment period or as part of the public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a further council meeting, or may refer the matter to the town staff for disposition. Copy of the town public comment period are available in the rear of the assembly room. And first up we have is Ms. Rebecca Cavanis. If you could step to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Rebecca Cavanis. Tonight I'm serving as our president for the Winterville Watermelon Festival Committee. And here with me is Heather Jackson. She's our board chair. We're just here to kind of make the official ask for our annual grant funds from the town and to be able to provide the opportunity for council to ask any questions in an, I guess, easy environment. Some of the things that I did want to talk about, I just want to run over some of the stuff that we're doing that's the same as years past, or at least as last year. Some highlights: we are going to do a cruise and car show Thursday night. The opening ceremony will be Friday night. We will be doing the beer garden during Saturday night concert only, and we will do Sunday day festivities again this year.
Mayor. I'm going to cover a few things that we're doing differently this year. We're going to do main music this year will just be Friday night and then Saturday night only. We're not going to do the concert for Sunday. And Friday night we're doing the Earth, Wind, and Fire tribute band. And then Saturday night is going to be Grand Funk Railroad. And this year is their 50th anniversary of their version of the locomotion. So we're excited about that. Sunday, BMX bike show. We've never had that before at the festival, so we did invite them this year to do some stuff on Sunday, and we are currently looking for some acts to be on the amphitheater stage for Sunday afternoon to kind of accompany that bike show as well. We do want to thank the town of Winterville and all the departments for all the support over the years. This is our 39th year this year, so we are moving right along, so we're very excited, and we just want to thank you all for your help and your support. We always are looking for ways to improve the festival. If you know anybody that would like to volunteer, or obviously this is for the community as well. If you guys want to help with the Watermelon Festival, if you have any ideas, please reach out to us, and we can also invite you to our meetings. We do meet on the second Tuesdays of every month. We meet in the Redmond building right across the street from the police station. And I just want to wrap up my time up here, just letting everybody know that we did win the best of, from the Daily Reflector. We did win second place for the best festival. In case anybody missed it, we missed out to Pirate Fest. They won the best festival, and we got second place, so.
And otherwise, I just wanted to ask if there's any questions that council has for us.
I have one. I know we had voted to have the beer garden for you all, and how is it going? And then my other question, if it's going well, why haven't y'all looked at going, if you having concerts on Friday night, why not Friday and Saturday, so that y'all can help generate proceeds, of course?
Yeah, great question. So that's something that we did kind of look into for this year in particular. So this will be our third time doing the beer garden if we do it again this year. It has been going well, and we've turned a little bit of a profit. I personally have a lot of reservations of expanding it into Friday night, specifically because the reason we're able to kind of control it the way we are on Saturday night is because the Saturday night concert is ticketed. So it's a lot easier for us to control who's coming in and making sure people aren't leaving with alcohol. If we go into doing it on Friday night, we're going to have to get into gating it on Friday night. We don't necessarily want it to be a ticketed concert on Friday night. And that, as well as the extreme insurance expense, if we expand it into Friday night, is a big hesitation on my part.
Well, couldn't you just have it in a controlled area where they still could watch the concert but still be within a controlled area?
Yeah, so what we would have to do if we did it like that is inside the concert area, then have a secondary gated area. We'd have to get the additional bike racks and gates and additional persons to be able to man that. And it is an awful lot on our volunteers to do that.
Right. The reason I'm asking, because, basically, we would like to see the festival be self-sufficient. That was one of the reasons that I was a strong proponent, for y'all having a beer garden. Hopefully, that would generate, and you're saying it's turning a little bit of a profit, not a whole lot, but.
I would dare say that I don't know that the beer garden will ever turn enough of a profit to make that much of a difference in things.
Right.
It does help us an awful lot, and especially compensates when we see a drop in sponsorships, with expenses rising for businesses. It's been a huge loss of ours. But that would be a monumental profit that we would have to turn off of beer. I just don't know that that's feasible.
I understand.
Could you address the reason why we chose to not to have the activity on Sunday?
So we are still going to do Sunday day festivities, but last year we did a concert on Sunday day, and due to the heat of the day, it was extreme, and we didn't have a very good turnout for it. It was a lot on the band as well, and I think we kind of came to the decision as a committee that just wasn't going to work out well. It needs to be in the evenings when we have those concerts, and we don't want to extend Sunday into an evening. So that's why we're kind of switching gears and going to something that's more just a family get-together thing. You can watch the Pro Town BMX get together.
I do have a question. Do you all have a fund development process and like a finance committee that kind of you all sit down and go over, like you said, your returns or the investment from years before? Do you all have that, and when do you all start maybe fundraising or the ask for local banks or just people in general for the Watermelon Festival?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a board that's part of the committee, so anybody can join the committee, and then if you want to go above and beyond and be crazy like we are and do an awful lot, you join the board, and our board puts together the budget, and we review everything, and then in October, is it normally when we do? We do a review in October of what our last festival did, and then propose the next budget, start reviewing that, and it's based off of the sponsorships we did receive. And then normally we start in like April, heavily advocating for sponsorships, going around the community, announcing it, putting all those applications out there. Typically April is when we begin all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Thank you. I have a question with regards to the Winterville pageant. Watermelon Festival, there's typically a Winterville pageant. I had a question about the exposure or advertisement of this, as well as the criteria, and when does that begin, so that we can expose that townwide to everyone.
We haven't, do you know that better than I do? Yeah.
So, I've been volunteering with the festival. This is my 8th year, and since I've been a part of it, we have not had a pageant. I do not know when the pageants stopped, but I know that probably right now we do not have the manpower to put together a pageant unless we were able to get some volunteers specifically that were designed to be able to take that on, and kind of put it together themselves without, you know, like what I already take on and, you know, what Rebecca takes on and what each of us that are on the board take on personally for the festival.
So you say about 8 years now?
That I know of specifically. I don't know, before that when,
You know,
Been a long time.
I
don't
can
know
speak,
how.
I mean, I can't say with exact certainty, but I used to be involved with the festival for a while. It's been a while, 10 years, 15 years. We had many years ago, they had pageants, and then they quit, and then we started them back. And we probably had 3 or 4 years of them, and it's been, I'd say, probably 10 to 15 years since we had the last one.
Maybe I'm misspeaking. Is there a Miss Winterville? Is there sponsors for that? Because I know I've seen, or maybe I'm somebody riding around with a sash, a Miss
There was-
Winterville.
are you
There's
talking
a-
about the Watermelon Queen?
She's talking about maybe Watermelon Queen.
Yeah,
Watermelon,
it's a
yes,
North
that-
Carolina Watermelon Queen, that she does come to our festival and,
Thank you.
yeah.
It's the-
Yeah, she
Thank
does like
you.
events during the, she helps with like the watermelon eating contest, and she does meet and greets at our t-shirt tent, and she comes in the VIP tent and, you know, meets the people that are part of that, yeah.
Thank you.
The North Carolina Watermelon Association does that.
Okay. Thank you. So that does answer my question. So she comes from outside the area just to help host and serve as symbolic as, okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for all the great work that y'all do with the festival, Rebecca.
Did you say what your request was? I'm just,
Yes, we were kind of making our official ask for the town for our grant funds, not necessarily that you need to vote on it here, but to give you the opportunity to ask questions prior to you guys discussing that at your budget meeting.
And their request is their annual request of 50,000.
oh, 50,000, that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Dr. Harrell.
I would like to ask, with your ask, are we able to have information about what the Watermelon Festival, like the profit was, or what was brought in from last year?
So you will get, by the end of this week, the copy of all of the non-town agency applications.
Okay.
And that should have all of that information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you again. Next up, we have Steve and India Dixon. Is that correct? Did I pronounce your name right? Okay.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Hines and Council. I apologize in advance. We only have 7 folders with information in them, and I see that
You can skip me. We'll keep going. I'll get it from someone else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Indira Dixon, or Indy Dixon. Our multi-generational family resides at 155 Lismore Drive. Today, our goal is to propose a change to the zoning ordinance which prohibits overnight sleeping in detached property. We purchased our property in December 23rd, 2021, and we love the town of Winterville and we love our neighborhood. My husband, Steve, and I do a good amount of our work from home, and although this contained only 1 office space, we were excited to find its detached garage that could someday provide us with a possible additional office space. And we started thinking about the office upgrade last year and obtained a permit to do so in January of this year. Additionally, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 vascular dementia in 2022. And by mid-2023, Dad had begun to find it difficult to manage Mom's symptoms and his own health challenges. So he reached out to the family and to inform us that he needed support. Our family began to take turns visiting them in Pennsylvania, helping as much as we could. And we also talked about the future and how we would handle the late stages of Mom's disease. Knowing our parents' financial state and their increasing medical issues, we suspected multi-generational dwelling might happen someday, though we weren't totally sure which family member that responsibility might fall on. Steve and I suspected it would ultimately be us, but dementia had its own timeline. On February 2nd of 2024, Mom and Dad moved into our guest room. We would place this situation in the category of an emergency move, and it was much sooner than any one of us ever expected. We soon realized that they would need their own space, and a space that included privacy for them as well. So we also know Mom will need additional care in the near future, which will probably include home visits with a home health aide, and having that separate space for our parents is critical for our families to function as normal as possible. Not to mention that we are committed to long-term care of our foster son, who has an emotional disability. He requires stability in a peaceful environment and has formed a strong attachment to my mom. And as much as possible, we want to shield him from Mom's inevitable decline. In doing some research for this proposal, we discovered that we are not alone in our situation. In March of 2022, PewResearch.org published a study on multi-generational households in America. And according to an analysis of the US Census data from the last 5 decades, the number of people living in multi-generational family households quadrupled in that period, reaching 59.7 million in 2021. At that time, 18% of the US population lived in multi-generational homes, and the number continues to increase annually. The primary reason for this increase has been financial difficulty / lack of affordable housing, with the secondary reason being caregiving. The populations most affected are the Black, Hispanic, Asian populations, where housing displacement and caregiving are more of an occurrence.
Your time, I'm sorry, your time is up.
So should I get to the proposal?
Well, your time is up. I'm trying to make sure that we abide by the rules that we set forth. Even though you had a nice long presentation, but still.
Mayor, if I may, it is my understanding that you all are requesting a change in our current ordinance which would not allow what you are looking for, and that is
That's
a
correct.
second primary structure on one lot.
That's correct.
I do believe you have spoken with Stephen Penn, our planning director. He is aware of your request, and just wanted to make sure council is aware of the request, and if I got anything wrong, just let me know. Okay?
So, but we appreciate you coming and sharing this information, and it's a lot of good information. I think that council really need to dive into, to look at, possibly even picking up the phone and talking with Stephen to dissect some of this information.
Would this change require a public hearing and all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mayor, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
this is not the first instance. I've actually had two other people at least with similar concerns, and I've reached out, and it is something that I have requested that maybe we can look at. It is becoming much more common.
So I believe we've got two methods available to us. Certainly, the Dixons could request an amendment in the ordinance text and go through that process officially to request that. Also, the council, a majority of council could decide that it's something that you would like staff to undertake. And of course, I hope the Dixons understand in looking at this and understanding exactly where you're coming from. Part of our job would be to identify and discuss all of the unintended consequences that come from an ordinance change such as this. So obviously, we would be also talking about any of these secondary primary residences that would be quote-unquote rented out or used as Airbnbs specifically for money-making endeavors. I just throw that out as one to discuss. Certainly, that doesn't reference what you all are referring to, but obviously the need to discuss those things would be necessary. So, Stephen, I don't know if I missed a process, but I think those are the two primary opportunities for us to move forward if council so inclined.
Yeah, Terry essentially covered it. Historically, they could they could apply with a $500 fee that essentially covers the advertising, things like that, or the council decided to direct staff to look into future ordinance changes.
So the $500 fee would be they go before the Board of Adjustment?
No, it would go, it would ultimately go to you as a ordinance amendment, to review if you want, if essentially the community wants something like that. You know,
It would be the same process that you've seen in previous text amendments brought before council. It would go through the planning board for consideration, and then ultimately public hearing, and then to council for decision.
if you remember, the chicken ordinance we reviewed a couple years ago, it went through a similar
Yes.
process where somebody really wanted chickens and finally came with an application, and then the board reviewed it, and that was the process that was taken.
I know I've heard that request from people because their lots are long. You know, they have long lots, and they've been thinking about putting a building, someone, a living dwelling behind their houses also. So it is something that we're hearing a lot of in the community. And we know that with the needs of those of us baby boomers who are getting older, that will be probably something that I like to see us look at. I know it's something I would like to see us look at.
I did want to quickly note that there is a bill already that passed the House, and it's in the Senate. It's called HB 409, and I put a copy of it in each of your folders. And so we reached out to a couple of our senators and representatives, and actually Senator Mayfield, Florestein Brown, and one other reached out to us and said it was a high priority for them to pass this by this summer. It's a bipartisan bill that is currently.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I said, they did a real good job of putting this information together. There's some good information that we can dive into. And again, if the council have any other questions too, they can check with Stephen.
Yep,
Yes,
I will. I just wanted to, I was going to find out exactly, so we reach out to Stephen, so individuals who would want to go through this process would reach out to you, Mr. Penn, to get this started, to get the application, pay the fee.
Yes, I can provide them the application. I provided it to them as well. And just for future reference, anytime somebody has something within a zoning ordinance that they desire to change, they can always submit this ordinance text amendment. It allows them their right to kind of go before the board to show their idea of a change in an amendment.
Thank you.
As an aside, if council decided by majority vote or more that you all wanted staff to work towards a change in this ordinance, you could certainly do that in lieu of somebody going and applying as such.
I think that should be the way that we do it, because we have quite a few requests, people asking about it, so. Do I need to make a motion?
We would need I think we
Okay.
would need a vote
Yes.
to do that.
Yes, that's correct.
King, yes.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we look into changing, what ordinance is it?
Stephen?
I think the proper term would be accessory dwelling unit, in this case, so it would be the ability to live in an accessory structure or a second living quarters on your property.
Okay.
I would second that.
So, I got a question. Okay.
Have a motion on the floor now. Motions by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilwoman Smith, to have the staff look at accessible dwelling, accessible dwelling on one's property, correct?
Yes, sir. I think that'll give them the instruction they
Okay.
need.
And now discussion, Mr. Councilman Moore.
This ordinance, it was put in place for a reason, and I think that we need to know the purpose that it was placed. Because I think that, for me, that would be very important for me to have a better understanding of the decision to make on my part.
If I may, it would be inherently difficult. That ordinance has been on the books a good while. So I don't know that staff could, and I don't think that's been addressed since I've been here, and that's almost 15 years. Stephen, if it's been during your tenure, let me know, but I don't think so.
In my 10 years here, I've never heard it from anybody from the board. Of course, every now and then we do receive people who come into the planning office wishing to do such a development, and we have to inform them that it is not currently available. I checked with Greenville this afternoon. Greenville does not currently allow them. I was mistaken. I thought they did, but I think they may have some unique zoning districts that would allow kind of a multi-family product in some areas that may be kind of single-family related. Aden does allow that. I checked with them today as well.
All I was going to say is I don't know that we could speak to the intent of why the ordinance was put in place in the beginning, because it has been so long ago. I don't know if that answers the question.
Councilwoman.
So I have a question. So the motion was made for us to look into it, or can somebody restate that motion for me, please?
I think the motion was to instruct staff to investigate amending the zoning ordinance to incorporate accessory building or accessory use. So it was just an instruction for the staff to research. Now, staff will come back and report to you what they find, and then you can start to make the decision if you want to make the amendment.
And I was just going to say, you'll probably see some change in the verbiage, more updated version of the verbiage to kind of reference what we're talking about today, as that may be a little antiquated currently in the ordinance. But we will certainly try to do so. I don't know that we'll be ready for June. We do not meet in July, but certainly by August, we'll be back with a report on what we have been able to find out and allow council to direct us from there if that's sufficient.
Okay. So we have the motion and the second, and now call for the question. So if you could please vote, please. Motion carried that the staff look into it, Stephen. Carried.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Little sidebar, we do have Congressman Don Davis, staff member, just walked in. Want to acknowledge Congressman Davis' staff and presence with us. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
We have Mr. Hemby from the Pitt County Human Relations Board with us
That's right.
tonight,
I forgot
too.
about Mr. Hemby, my neighbor. Luther Hemby with Human Relations Board, Pitt County Human Relations Board. Thank y'all both for being here. Next up is the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. A motion made by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Dr. Brandon Harrell on the consent agenda. Any discussion? If none, please vote by your clicker. Thank you. Motion carry. Old business update on the Human Relations Board.
I would like to just remind council that based on your direction and Councilwoman Hawkins's hard work, we have an informational meeting this Thursday evening at 6 p.m. to meet with applicants who are interested in serving on the Human Relations Board. Councilwoman Hawkins, jump in if I miss anything. And in an effort to just explain to them the purpose of the board, what the board's missions and goals are, and talk about the time commitment that is necessary to serve on such a board, and also try to ascertain who is still interested so that we can then come back to council, make that report, and then get direction on where the board would like to go with the Human Relations Board. Did I miss anything, Councilwoman Hawkins?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, I have Mideast that night.
Okay.
So I'll be in Williamston that
Okay.
night.
If it's okay with the mayor and council, Councilwoman Hawkins and I will give an update after the meeting back to mayor and council as a whole as to how the meeting went.
Okay,
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
sounds good. New business, storm debris removal service contract.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We sent out RFPs for our storm debris removal services contract. We received 3 bids. We advertised on March 27th, 2024. We received 3 bids from CTC Incorporated, DRC Emergency Services, and Cirrus Environmental. CTC was the lowest responsible proposal, and staff recommends award the contract to CTC Incorporated for the next 3 years, effective July 1st, 2024. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to
Who was the current contractor?
answer. That was DRC. No, Cirrus, I'm sorry. Cirrus Environmental was our last.
Okay, all right. Any question from the staff? You need a nod on this one.
We do.
Right,
So I would move that we accept the recommendation to award the contract to CTC for storm debris removal.
I second.
okay, got a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Smith, second by Councilman Moore, that we approve the contract to CTT, or
CTC.
CTC, I'm sorry, CTC. Any discussion? If none, please vote by hitting your clicker, please. All right. I think next up is this Interim Chief Williams contract on the TASER.
Mayor, council, town manager. It's been 5 years.
Chief, I need you to speak closer in the mic. Sorry about that.
It's been 5 years since our TASER contract was last renewed. That's how long they're good for. It's time to re-up. And I don't think anybody can argue the benefits of body-worn cameras or conducted energy weapons as a less than lethal option known to the public as tasers. So I feel like this is a valuable and not replaceable item for the police department.
If I may mention, we did have a previous 5-year contract. It was with Taser International. That company is now Axon. The structure of the contract is very, very similar, if not almost exact, to the previous contract, minus the obvious changes. And that will be the payments for each 5 years, as you see in the abstract, will be included in that specific respective year's fiscal year budget.
I just have, are these like everything else? Is this current, like, software, or is this software that may change?
Yes, sir. Every
You know.
time that we've gone up in a, excuse me, every time that we've gone up in a contract, it comes with the newest version of whatever. So we started with these weird little body cameras we wore around our neck, and we went to the body 2s, now the body 3s. This contract will include the body 4s, and that's with regard to the body-worn cameras, and the tasers also go up numerically in the versions that we operate in the police department.
Okay.
I think if you'll also denote at year mark 2.5, 2.5 years, and in 5 years, at the 5-year mark, new equipment will be issued
That's
to
right.
reference the changes in technology.
It's also 100% guaranteed, so when we
Yes.
break stuff, we just send it back and they send us new stuff.
As you'll denote, there may be a substantial increase in the price, but obviously a lot's changed in 5 years technologically. So Chief did a good job and staff to negotiate with Axon to try to make it somewhat affordable, but again, it's critically necessary to approve this and include it in our budget and our equipment.
Any question before, need a nod on this also? Need a motion on this also?
Yes, yes.
I move to approve the contract with,
Exxon.
Axon.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilwoman Smith, to approve the contract to Exxon for body-worn cameras and tasers. Correct, Chief? That's right. Chief. All right, any discussion? If none, please vote by hitting your clicker.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Motion's carried. Motion carried. Next up is janitorial service contract. Who's handling this?
I am. I'm going to attempt to wing it.
Okay.
As Chief Moore is out of town at a conference. So it was time, we have janitorial services contract, and the company that we currently employ cleans all of our town buildings. And as such, we went out for bid, and these companies who put in bids took tours, et cetera, and you all have the bid tabulation from those companies in your packet. You have a copy of the specifications and the associated contract. Staff is asking, and you see the dates that all of this advertisements, et cetera, took place. Staff is recommending that you approve and award the contract to, I want to make sure I get the A and B? A and B. Yes, thank you very much. And they are our current contractor. You can see that the annual contract has increased in the amount of $62,400, and staff recommends that council approve moving forward with this contract.
Any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue the contract with A and B.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Dr. Brandy Harrell, to continue the contract with A and B Clean.
Award the contract.
I'm sorry, award.
Yes.
I'm sorry, award the contract to A and B Cleaning Service Incorporated. Any discussion? If none, please vote by hitting your clicker.
Mayor, if I could point out that probably the biggest change in this contract is we removed the floor cleaning and carpet cleaning from the contract, as we have found in more recent years that is probably a separate service that we need to contract specifically with a company that focuses on those things. So that is a big difference in the previous contract versus the one we'll enter into.
All right, thank you. Now we're down to other agenda items, and first up, Councilwoman Hawkins has protecting pedestrian safety. Councilwoman Hawkins.
Yes, good evening. My first item, or the first item that I have, is protecting pedestrian safety. We know that 2 weeks ago, there was someone who lost their life, who was a pedestrian. I know on our last town council meeting, there was a vote for the town manager to halt or not to investigate any further actions for town-based transportation. So I am speaking in regards to protecting pedestrian safety because for me it matters, and I believe for pedestrians it matters. So what I have is a quick list of the ways in which we can protect pedestrian safety, drivers to pedestrians, and then pedestrians to drivers. And it's going to take me a quick couple seconds just to say it, and hopefully our town can adopt this, can advertise, can put this out, can expand this, because both driver safety and pedestrian safety means a lot. And it is for drivers to pedestrians to yield to pedestrian signs. We do not have pedestrian signs, but it is my hope with our Safe Streets initiative that we can get some additional increase in pedestrian signs, lighted crosswalks for at night when the sun goes down, because pedestrians, if they need to get to the store, they are still walking. Vests for walkers that can be seen at night, and that is drivers to pedestrians. This is what they can do, and this is what they can do to help see them and make them more visible. And pedestrians to drivers, make sure if you are a pedestrian that you make eye contact with drivers. Never assume that a driver sees you. Use extra caution when you are walking, and follow the signs. So that is something that I have wanted to share. We don't want any lives lost, whether they're drivers, whether they're passengers in vehicles. Lives are precious. And so I hope that our council can move forward at some point to see how we can protect pedestrian lives a little bit further.
If I may, Councilwoman Hawkins, I'll get that verbiage together and make sure it's as you stated, and then we'll get it out in our communication efforts.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, you have Councilwoman Hawkins, you have fair housing in our town.
Yes, so if I am certain, when I look at the ordinance, our ordinance, what we go by via North Carolina state laws, and then how that trickles down into our town. Ordinance number 93 falls up under fair housing. And if I'm not mistaken, that falls under planning and zoning. Am I correct? For housing, fair housing?
I believe so. Let me look. I'm sorry, don't let me stop you there.
Okay. And so while you're looking, I just, with review of the fair housing ordinance, it states that if one has concerns in terms of fair housing, and namely affordable housing, if they have any concerns, they need to submit grievances. And if these grievances fall under discrimination, then that falls under certain facets within discrimination. These are race, color, religion, sex, national origin, physical or mental handicaps, or family status. However, nothing in this ordinance points out discrimination based on the ability to meet income requirements. This is something that I want to point out. I know that we have developers come in to Winterville, and they want to be a part of this great town. But I'm looking to see how we can expand or advertise more opportunities for them to be more affordable for those that live here. We had public comment about attachments and adding on because of the different circumstances within our families and how things change over time. I don't know if this ordinance, how long ago it was created. I know outside of Winterville, there are different programs that are helping with affordable housing. And I'd like for us to discuss that a little bit further. My point in putting this on the agenda tonight is to bring this to the attention of anyone who is listening or anyone who is present, that I am looking into it, and that I will continue to look into it. So again, back to my question, we have nothing in terms of discrimination based on income requirements. What can we do to help when developers come in and there's no room for anyone who cannot meet that income?
Councilwoman Hawkins, if I could address the first comment that you made. Chapter 93 basically appoints the town planning board as the Fair Housing Committee. And I wanted to look at this because this has been on the books a good while and it's not come to pass. In other words, no one has made a complaint that would enact this type of process that I'm aware of. And then it further states the Fair Housing Committee, along with the assistance of the town managers, shall receive and review any and all grievances concerning discrimination in the division of housing within the town. Of course, we don't have a housing division, and certainly anything that's come about from a condition, landlord-tenant condition situation where it would prompt an inspection, the inspections department has handled that. So I would defer to our town attorney to kind of jump in terms of, a lot of this is going to be obviously conditioned under Title 8 Civil Rights Act and things included in HUD in terms of what they require, and King.
Yeah, looking at Chapter 93, it identifies that maybe the last work that was done with the drafting of this particular chapter goes back to 1992, and my guess is it goes back beyond that. I've been around since about 92, and I don't think there's been any activity or any involvement in this particular chapter. I don't remember any type of myself from the town attorney aspect getting involved. Reading through this, and this is of course just one single page, I can tell there's not been a whole lot of thought going into it, because as the town manager said, the planning board will act as the Fair Housing Committee. My guess, they've never done that before. And then there's identification of the powers and duties, and where they, actually complaints are filed, and there would have to be a hearing on those complaints, and they talks about even the levying of fines. So knowing that we have how our Board of Adjustment works, and that there's a fairly extensive set of procedural or procedures that they have to follow, no question that we would need to come up with a set of procedures to guide the planning board acting as the Fair Housing Committee on how they should receive these complaints and what they should do. So that's a lot of talk to say. I think there's a bit of work that we would need to do to get this up and running and so that it can move forward.
Keen, and I wanted to speak to in terms of development and how that's addressed, and any requirements related to what we could place on developers with respect to the cost of housing. I'm not aware of anything that would give us that ability to do that.
Just within the confines of this one page, this seems to be more towards discrimination in housing that's
Existing,
I'm sorry, what?
I said existing.
Existing, yeah,
housing.
that's a great word, existing.
Yes, existing housing.
I'm not sure, I mean, we'd be glad to look at it, but the idea of through fair housing to instruct or to guide developers on how they can develop, that's another area that I would have to look at. Not familiar with that, but, if you instruct us, be glad to look.
I do have.
Yeah, pull down your,
Oh.
please.
Just want to kind of ask about, I guess, the ordinance. Is it following the U.S. Department of Justice Fair Housing Act, which does speak to you can't make housing unavailable to persons because of their race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, and or disability, but it just does not speak to the ability to pay. So maybe that's one of the reasons why that ordinance is written the way that it is, because it mimics or comes from or derived from the U.S. Department of Justice. Now, if we wanted to go in and maybe, add, as you said, add something to speak to Councilwoman Hawkins' thought about the ability to pay, but as far as the ordinance, changing the ordinance, are we even able to change that or amend that? Because it sounds like it's just based on the U.S. Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division, the Fair Housing Act.
I'm sure that the genesis of this comes from that federal law, there's no question. Again, we've just got one single page, so it doesn't give us a whole lot of detail. So yes, ma'am, I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question for Stephen. Stephen, what is considered an affordable house here in Winterville? Because last time I heard it, it's more than what I would think.
So affordable housing, the definition is almost always, no matter what organization you look at, 30%, up to 30% of your income. So, you know, it changes, it differs for every single individual. It's not necessarily across the board for the town of Winterville. It would be for that individual themselves. If they are spending more than 30%, if the household is spending more than 30% of what they're bringing in, then that is considered unaffordable.
I saw somewhere, I heard somewhere, that in Winterville, an affordable house was over $100,000. I don't know where I've heard it.
Would that be
seen
based
it.
off of our,
Yeah.
off of our median income? Because I think,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, Winterville has the highest
Right.
median income in Pitt County. So with that, if it's based off of the income at 30%, it would be a higher.
Yeah. And the word affordable is so misleading.
It is.
Because it sounds like one thing, but then it's another. You know, your teachers, your policemen, and people like that, you know, we consider, you know, they can afford affordable housing. In some cases, our price of housing is more than they can afford, you know.
I think we have discussed the fact that affordable means a lot of different things to a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. And as such, we're still, I think, grappling with what it means to Winterville. And certainly, there's nothing that says that we can't work with a developer who desires to build what might be deemed affordable housing for our area. But I'm just not sure there are any requirements that we could place on developers to do something of that nature.
And I've heard of communities that have required a certain percentage, but, you know, I don't know how they did it, but.
Now, I know that theoretically, and Stephen, jump in, that you could try to work with the developers to require a certain percentage of their specific development. And you could certainly enact a goal, but I'm not exactly sure, and things change, but, Keen, unless I'm wrong, I'm not sure of the requirements. Certainly, we will check to make sure,
There's,
but I'm not, and you're in it. so-
yeah, I work in it, but there's not any requirement to, I mean, because he can do, it's his land. If he purchased the land, it's his land to build as he see fit.
Assuming he meets all the,
Soon as he meets all the
Zoning,
town
et cetera,
zoning
right.
criteria, you know, like you said, speaking to affordable is different for everybody, you know, from county to county, you know, from town to town. But, you know, of course, you can talk with a builder and offer him or her any type of incentive to build, but they're gonna be looking for something from the town.
in a lot of cases,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, they may come in and say, I build every fifth house to be deemed affordable, you know, and that affordability may not be, it may be 200,000 if he's building $500,000 house. You see what I'm saying? That would be what he sees as affordable, because he's building a $500,000 home. you know.
I'd also like to say, if I may, when I think about affordable housing, most of the time I think about income-based or income-driven. And that, most of the time, Councilwoman Hawkins, that's kind of like a balance in that, when you may not have the space. I know that in different locations, there are income-based housing. So I think that affordable housing and income-based housing, that might be kind of what you're thinking about as well. If there's an income-based housing for like different units in a community, then that's fine, because I know that there are different structures in Greenville that are income-based.
No, I know what you're speaking of, Dr. Harrell, Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Harrell. I know what you're speaking of, and we have something similar to that here in Winterville that goes by your income. I'm speaking of people who go out here and work every single day, teachers, educators, social workers, counselors, who can barely afford to live in Winterville. And so my question is, how do we, I don't know, I thought it was mentioned that there was never a grievance, or it has not been in a long time. What do we have in place for a grievance to be put forth? And do we have a fair housing committee, the planning committee, that is readily available to look at that and to perhaps answer questions? And again, when I speak, I'm speaking from what I hear and what I'm getting, and so I'm putting it forth. I think in income-based, if you need to live in income-based unit housing, that is fine. And you know, that's your home as well. And I'm totally respectful of that. I'm speaking of new developments that come in, and I know we can't tell developers what to do, but if one feels that they are not being given that opportunity to live there, there should be something put in place so we can at least, or someone can at least review it and say, hey, you don't meet the criteria, whatever. What do we have?
Well, I think what we have is the planning board, which currently exists, which this ordinance currently appoints them as the Fair Housing Committee. Past that, I would say, because we have not had a situation where it would enact this process, I would say we are not prepared to handle such. However, after tonight's discussion, Keen and I will certainly get together and take a look to see if one were to come forward a complaint, how that might be dealt with accordingly. And we'll report back to council if council would like us to do so.
Yeah, and I'll say what I said a moment ago. I think it's going to probably take a little bit of time to develop that procedure, because this will be something new for this board. And, you know, if they receive a complaint as identified in Chapter 93, they won't know what to do, so we'll have to develop that procedure. Again, very similar to what we have at our Board of Adjustment. Right. Can be done, or just it'll take a little while.
Thank you, and I'm excited about that happening. Is there some sort of a timetable? Is it 6 months? Or when should I look forward, or when should council look forward to getting some sort of report back?
Sure.
Keen, I would say we could give the council a report, an update on where we are in September. I don't anticipate we'll be done, but we could at least let you know what we've accomplished or been able to determine by then. And then maybe we may need some direction on where to go from here, but I certainly think we could give you an update on what we have discovered thus far.
Thank you very much.
Will you finish, Councilwoman, on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next up is Main Street and Mill Street parking, Councilwoman Hawkins.
Yes, I wanted to speak to Main Street and Mill Street parking. And anyone who lives or drives around in and around Winterville during the evening hours of starting maybe Thursday through Sunday, it is kind of difficult to get through there when they are parking in their parking spaces. My question is there a way in which, I don't know, we can expand some parking around another side, behind the establishments? Because it is very difficult. And me, myself, I have a 19-year-old daughter who's a new driver, and she avoids that street at every cost because she does, because she has anxiety about turning down that street. So I just wanted to mention that it is difficult. And what, have we looked at that? Or I'm quite sure it has been looked at, but what can we do to minimize any potential hazards?
Mayor, if I may, I just want to geographically make sure, are you talking about the whole downtown area? Or are you talking about specifically?
I'm speaking about right in front of the establishment, Main and Mill. It's like a seafood.
Yes.
Kind of like a
Of that
seafood
restaurant specifically.
Yes, yes. Just turning there.
Yes.
And I mean, I see those who are parking, they're trying to do their best to, but if you have a pickup truck, or, it is really difficult because that is a two-way street as well. So that was a concern that I have heard. And then my daughter, she avoids that street. So I just wanted to bring that forward. And if we have done something to try to alleviate that, speak to it, maybe we can speak to it to address it.
Absolutely, and I would agree, it's tight in there. That intersection is difficult, just period, not a lot of room to work with. So we currently have an ongoing parking project where we are trying to expand parking as a whole in the downtown area due to the success of the businesses that have opened up and are doing well. In that, it's trying to add additional parking spaces along Railroad by painting some additional parallel parking lines to give people additional space. We have improved lighting in the downtown area so that the public parking lot behind the Market on the Square property, people would feel safe in walking to the downtown businesses. We are also looking currently at maybe rerouting some of our traffic in the downtown area to add additional parking, all in hopes that people will feel like they can find places to adequately utilize the businesses in the downtown area. So that would certainly include the Main Street area during the business day, and during Thursday through Sunday. That is tight at all times trying to get through there. So I can imagine why your daughter would be anxious. I've been driving a long time, and it makes me anxious at times. So we will certainly continue to have that area at top of our project list when we're looking at ways to try to alleviate the pressure on parking. And we will continue to update council as we make progress where the parking issues arise. Did that help?
Yes, it really did. It helps to know that you have, or the town has identified the barriers or the problems, and that something is being done. In terms of expanding additional parking, is that going to happen within the next 3 months, or, as we get into the summertime?
Yes.
You have more drivers out.
Yes.
So just,
I think we have always reported it as a phased approach. So in terms of painting lines and adding additional parallel parking spaces on Railroad particularly, that will be easier and can happen quicker. Some of the additional parking where we're going to reroute traffic one-way to two-way, remove some diagonal parking spaces here, add it elsewhere, that may take a little longer because we'll have to have some project management and some engineering resources. As a matter of fact, Anthony and staff have been working on that with a current engineering firm to try to take a look at adding where land is involved and kind of reworking that. Obviously, we're always on the lookout for additional land. We own some land that would have to be redeveloped in the downtown area where we may add some parking as well. So to answer your question, I think the additional parallel parking on Railroad could happen easily in the next couple of months. what I'll call Phase 2, which would be some of the additional parking on current streets and property that is available right now. It may take a little longer, and then certainly redeveloping some land, I would say, would probably be a year or more out.
Thank you very much.
I do have a question. So in regards to the parking and additional parking is great, but what about duration? Are we, or can we look into maybe 2-hour parking, things of that nature? Because I know, again, we're growing, and sometimes, you know, people don't get a chance to kind of park because, I don't know, you know, there's not a duration and things of that nature. And then also, you know, there have been concerns or, you know, some citizens reaching out about different businesses that may leave their cars in said parking spaces overnight, you know, and things of that nature. So are we, or can staff look into that as well?
We could, and we can, and would be happy to do as directed by council. I will say in every jurisdiction where I have worked that has a timed parking or paid parking or associated fines, if you're trying to build your, I'll say downtown area, sometimes that can be an impediment. It turns people off. Can it be done? Absolutely. Is it done other places? Absolutely. Enforcement is an issue, trying to determine who would basically mark tires for time purposes. That usually defaults to the police department, and that requires personnel we don't currently have. But certainly if it's something that council deems important, we could take a look at and try to encompass. It is challenging, but it can be done.
Thank you.
Good, that answer. Okay. And number 4 here, Councilwoman Hawkins, you have down here the intersection of Reedy Branch Road, Memorial Drive, and South Square Drive, which that's actually not in our jurisdiction.
Correct.
I didn't know
That's in
whether you had
Greenville.
any.
Well, if that's not in our jurisdiction, we can I'll forego speaking on it. It was brought to my attention several times, and just with Aldi supermarket being there, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, Aldi, it was brought to my attention that it is extremely hazardous,
It's a dangerous
many
intersection,
times.
yes.
But if it is not in our jurisdiction, I will try to reach out to.
If, I was going to say, if you could send me an email on it, and or for me or either Johnny, because we represent MPO,
Okay.
what you're looking for, you know.
We can also forward staff information from the city of Greenville for your information to pass that along if that would help.
I've got a question. Is that intersection, you know, that section there from what? Davenport Farm Road, am I correct? Right there by the credit union.
Right.
Yeah,
That intersection right there. I was going through some stuff at my house, and amazingly, when I came on this board, we had sent that in as a high priority thing. Is it still on that high priority list? That intersection where that big accident was last week, along in that area?
In that area. Well, you know, Tony always called that a high priority intersection, the most dangerous
Dangerous
intersection in Pitt
Yes.
County. And of course, we are talking about it. I think Anthony, me and you and Elia, EU. I know I'm messing his name up, forgive me, but we've discussed that intersection several times after the meetings, and he showed us some plans, something that that's to be continued.
Yes, and it's something we continue to push for realignment.
Right.
I do think there are potentially some plans in terms of how it might be redesigned. I think it's still a ways
Up in
down
the
the
air,
road.
right.
But our job is to continue to push forward to try to get that moved up in the way of importance.
I think it's on the low priority picking list, what we was told, is correct.
But does that accident that happened last week, the death of that high school
Well, you got different, that's a different intersection from the intersection that you were speaking about.
I know both of them are terrible.
Right, I know they are.
Yeah.
Right, but, it's kind of
That was the one up there
different.
by Beacon Drive.
Right,
But I think that the whole area there contributes to that.
I'm sorry, I was thinking, they was looking at lights, how quick the lights or something, I don't know. So,
I do think that traffic congestion is going to be a continual issue, and I don't know how it'll be addressed, and I'm not sure that that necessarily contributed to the accident, except for, I don't know what I can and can't say, but I know that
But that whole
situation's
area in there
it's
pretty
just
much
congested.
has been a concern for,
It is, and people need to be more vigilant than they ever have been in terms of when you drive in these congested areas, because clearly it only takes a second for something terrible to happen.
and I mean, interrupt you, but, and again, same thing, Ms. Robinson, if you send me something, so I can have it when we meet. Now, since I'm the vice chair, so maybe I might have a little bit more, I don't know.
I know that those
push.
projects change order, because, I remember how many times Boyd Street
Yes.
changed order. Boyd Street changed,
That's right.
they dropped it down on the list and moved.
That's right.
What is it? Extension Larry Ellis over there?
Yes.
They
Same
put
thing.
that, they dropped Boyd Street down and put it up higher, and nothing's built out there yet.
Right.
But they did that at one point, so I just want to make sure that we still have that, intersection, that section of road on the list, because it is a hazard for our citizens and those traveling in the area.
All right, thank you. Are there any future agenda items or future work sessions anyone has?
I'd like to see a report on the graveyard.
Graveyard? Chair?
Yes, ma'am. There'll be one coming up in the June meeting.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any? Okay. Next up, we're gonna have quarterly reports from the department, only if you have something that you feel that this council needs to hear from the staff on their quarterly reports. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Don't y'all run up here at one time now.
I'd like to hear what's going on in our department. I mean, maybe, I'm old-fashioned.
Well, you get it in your agenda, old-fashioned. Called reading. No, I'm just teasing.
I ain't worried about what you say.
Mayor, members of the council, I do have one item, just, kind of talking about safety, or actually two. You saw the quick build project got installed last weekend, thanks to all the hard work from Dr. Dell, and as well as our public works department. Spent the weekend out there, had several volunteers as well. It was a good project, good, to have the community come out and support that. We also had the bike and roll, walk and roll event last week to school. That was well attended to both of our schools, not our high school, but both the W.H. Robinson and A.G. Cox. And wanted to speak briefly to, this is a continuing effort. This is really probably the beginning of really focusing on these types of projects here in Winterville. Not that hasn't been a concern in the past, but we're probably taking a little more concerted effort to try to go after opportunities. With that being said, we will be filing for a $150,000 grant this week for SS4A. It is a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. So this is the first time the town has applied for this grant. It is through the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's not through NCDOT. So the first round is for a study, and I really was, the people I was working with, we were really trying to find money for actual implementation. Right? We can study things and study, but we have studies that have been done historically. Where we need help is with getting funding, and so looking at the process, we have to go through everybody else's process. We can't make up our own. And So part of this process with this grant, the first iteration when you apply initially has to, basically, unless there's been a recent study done, you have to, recommended that you do the planning study. After the planning study comes back and you get recommendations, based on the recommendations, you'll be able to apply for actual physical improvement grant funding to go along with it, to take the recommendations from the study and start implementing those and making strategic improvements throughout the community. With that being said, we've also worked with several of our political officials throughout the state. I mean, we've had several meetings. We've had meetings with Candy Smith, Tim Reeder, been in communication with Don Davis's office, and we also have another one, Greg Murphy's office, coming up in the future. So at all of these meetings, sidewalks and streets have been a priority. It's been communicated. I believe the mayor also spoke with several people up in D.C. on his trip. Not to speak for you, Mayor, but that was done as well. And so hopefully, we've really poured a lot into this, and I think, it's just the beginning, but I really have high expectations of getting some good outcomes in the future when it comes to these type of projects and safety and pedestrian changes for multimodal options here in Winterville. And so yeah, that's basically it. Just wanted to give you a little update on that.
And Anthony, could you share that with Congressman Davis, staffer, that information, so that she can get that information, please, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Anyone else that like to speak? Okay. Well, continue to do the fine, excellent job that you do each and every day for the town of Winterville. Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, I was just going to say, of course, the staff does their quarterly or their monthly report.
We lost.
Yep, I pushed the button twice.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Hands away.
Get those out to you as early as I can. Please review those. If you have questions, let me know, or the staff person that's responsible for those reports.
All right. Don, announcement.
Yeah, I was trying to report on other things. Okay. Tomorrow will be the second primary election, be at the Operations Center and over to Community Building, runs from 6:30 to 7:30. As was stated earlier, the Human Relations Informational Meeting will be this Thursday, May 16th at 7, and we'll be in the conference room for that. Coffee with a Cop is Friday, May 17th, and that is from 9 to 10:30 in the community room. Planning and Zoning Board will meet on Monday, May 20th, 7 p.m. here in the Assembly Room. And then Budget Work Session number 1 will be Tuesday, the 21st, 6 p.m. right here in Town Hall. Budget Session number 2 then will be Thursday. We got, you're going to have plenty of fun next week. And that's at 6 here in Town Hall also. Memorial Day holiday is Monday, May the 27th, and town offices are closed that day. Recreation Advisory Board is on Tuesday, May the 28th, and this month they're meeting at the Ainge House. Then scheduled is the budget public hearing will be Monday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. here in, that's incorrect there, it should be here in the Assembly Room. And then your next town council meeting is on June the 10th.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, anybody have any questions? All right. We're We're going to start with the town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no reports tonight. Be glad to answer any questions the board has of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Smith.
No, just, I know it's already been mentioned, the wreck this week. I just want to say thank you to our interim Chief Williams and his department, and Chief Moore is not here, but those people who serve us every day with EMS, fire, and police, and then especially when events like that happen, we're grateful to you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Robinson.
I echo what Councilwoman Smith said about our staff. We do have a good staff, and I just like the idea of you all getting up here. Y'all say it, then it's on YouTube, and our citizens hear it, so we got bragging rights. So we do thank you for everything that you've done. I do thank the town for supporting us during NCLM. I went to workshops, they had some good workshops, some good information, and I appreciate the opportunity to go. And I attended coffee with cops, so I always enjoy that. Keep working on attendance for it and everything. And two of those foods was good. Thanks to you all for everything you do. And including us.
Mayor Pro Tem.
As always, again, as my colleagues have said, thank you all for what you do. And you all look amazing in your green, and also with your green ribbon. So thank you for wearing green for Mental Health Awareness Month. It is very, honestly, impactful and exciting to continue to lead alongside of you all, because you guys are amazing leaders. You're not just staff, you're leaders in our community. So I really appreciate that, and also to this council. Thank you.
Councilman Boyd.
Thank you. I'd like to address our senior citizen tonight. They gathered to the Winterville Park this past week, and they had a great turnout. And it appeared to me by our director, Ms. White, they were having a fun time. They really enjoyed themselves, and our understanding I got was that they usually meet at least twice a month, and that was my first time meeting with them or being there, and it appeared that it's a good outing for our seniors, and we need to continue passing the word along what's going on in our community for our city, for our senior citizens. Also, I do have a note, it was given to me earlier, that we need to look at the depot a little bit closer, Chief. Talk like that. We are still having ones go out there and park certain time at night. A lot of activity going on out there, so I would like, if you could, just to start monitoring that as much as you can. Also, I'd like to thank everyone that came out tonight, and especially a representative from Don Davis' office. Glad to have you here tonight, and the rest of you, all of you, and us, because I am part of this community too, are very important. So I say to you, if I don't see you before Memorial Day this month, hope and pray that you have a blessed and safe holiday. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Thank you. I'd like to first thank the citizens of Winterville for entrusting me to speak on your behalf and to work along with the town council to get things done that are needed for you. I'd like to thank the staff as well for what you do each day. I particularly would like to highlight Interim Chief Williams and his staff. I joined them on last Saturday, May 4th, for their field trip in which we toured the police precinct, the fire station, EMS, and I can tell you that I learned so much in that field trip, and Interim Chief Williams is planning on doing more of those field trips throughout the summer. I would invite citizens as well as council to go on it. The staff, the officers were very courteous. They were very hospitable. They shared a lot of information, and I just truly enjoyed it, as well as the family and children that was there as well. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, as Dr. Harrell has shared. So grateful for what she does each day. I'd like for you to take time to think about our youth as they are preparing, maybe 15 days in until the end of grade tests for elementary school and K-12. So they are under a lot of stress. So please keep them in mind when we think about mental health. Next, it is also Lupus Awareness Month. You can see this by those who wear purple. It is Lupus Awareness Month. Finally, tomorrow, DOT will be installing an all-way stop sign on Old Tar Road and Vernon White. I think this is a huge accomplishment for Winterville, and I know we're getting an expansion later on in a few years, in about 1 or 2 years, but this is a next step to greater safety. Finally, we never know when we're going to see each other again, so I say if we can practice anything, and if we can be anything, let's try to be kindness. Thank you.
Thank you. Town manager report.
I have no report this evening.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody, like everybody else echoed, for coming out tonight. Thank the people for watching. And also, too, we have a big event coming up this week. The new addition to the town of Winterville, Lowe's Food. Lowe's Food will be opening up on the 16th. They got a VIP setting on the 15th. I think some of y'all may have received that. But on the 16th, I think it's at 7 in the morning is the ribbon cutting. And Dr. Harrell will be there in my stead. I had already had plans, vacations plans already in the works, and so I will not be able to attend, but I did send them some, my thank you for coming to the town of Winterville, opening up and providing jobs, for our community and the surrounding community. As we spoke earlier about traffic, it's always going to be one of these things, but, we're a town that is thriving in the right direction. And, with growth, you're going to have some of these challenges, but it's incumbent upon us up here to try to figure out how to alleviate some of these challenges. And I think we're going to do that as a collective board. I think we would do that with the staff. But we do, want to make sure that y'all think the staff at Lowe's Food, when y'all go out there, for coming here and letting them know that. And also, we have opening house at A.G. Cox. So if y'all can attend that also, that'll be very nice if y'all could attend that and see that new front phase of it. It's awesome, nice building. I'm just hating and kicking myself. Everything is hitting all at the same time, but believe me, I need this R&R. And Ms. Hawkins, I don't know whether, are you going to be with the seniors on Saturday?
I am.
Can you pass along my sincere apology, but I will be out of town.
I sure will.
Thank you. But they had asked me to come over, so if you don't mind. But with that being said, have I missed anything?
Can't think of anything.
Okay. All right. Do I have a what? Motion to what?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Dr. Harrell, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Is there any discussion? If not, please hit your clicker. Motion carried. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Man.
Tell Mark I said, hey, how's everything going with him at the county?
Pretty well. They had their budget meetings this week. Maybe Thursday, running at 9.
They meet twice a month, right?